Well, it's almost Halloween. You know what that means? Don't? Me either. I don't fucking know. So tonight, since it's almost Halloween, I'm going to talk about all of my ghost stories, which aren't really ghost stories, they're more like times I saw ghosts and shit. I don't know if you believe in ghosts. If you don't, cool. If you do, even fucking cooler. But I want to talk about the times that I thought, or that I legit still think, I saw a ghost. Start with the most recent ones, which I think might be the only ones. As you may know, I majored in photography, probably not based on this lighting, sorry. At the college that I went to, rooms that film dark rooms, you know, like the ones you see on TV and shit. Basically, it consists of a black and white dark room here, and then a color dark room here. They're next to each other, and they're only separated by like a wall and like 2 doors. So the reason why they're separated, I'll explain here in just a second. But the lead lab tech, he had always told us, and more like jokingly, but sort of also seriously, would tell us, hey, there's a poltergeist in the color dark room. And not a lot of people have went in the color dark room, simply because the color photography class itself at the college is actually more of an advanced course. So the first few, it goes like beginning photography, intermediate photography, and then right there next to it is also digital photography. So digital and beginning are kind of like in the same level, and then you got intermediate photography. Both beginning and intermediate photography are black and white film courses. You work with film, you develop film, and then you print from enlargers in a dark room using chemicals and water and shit. After those 3 classes is color photography, I think that's what it was called. You basically work with color film, you learn to develop color film, you learn to enlarge color photographs from an enlarger and then print them out and all that jazz. So the reason why the 2 dark rooms are actually separated is because movies, you see the photographer in their dark room and it's dark and they have that red hue in the room and they're like printing pictures and shit and hanging them on the wall, like being all artsy. That's a black and white dark room. That red hue is called a safety light, and they can be other color. Or at least red is. Anyway, so you can use black and white enlargers to enlarge black and white photographs with a safety light of some sort to help us see in there. But now the color darkroom is right next to the black and white darkroom. Color photographs. The paper itself is too sensitive to light to have a safety light on. So when you are printing color photographs, it has to be pitch fucking black. I already don't like the dark as it is. You could tell by the lights. And basically I was stuck in the color dark room for an entire semester. I guess I can get into the whole specifics of developing film in another video, but for right now, we're gonna stick to basics here. So, in the black and white darkroom, there was no real activity that I saw or heard of, or at one point I was the only one enlarging photos in the color darkroom at one point during the semester, because it is kind of difficult to do. Again, I'll probably get to that in another video. I don't know. But basically, it was a lot easier, and it still is a lot easier, to use a roll of color film, develop that roll of color film, even though it's still kind of a bitch to do, and then scan your color film into a scanner on the computer and then just print it out that way. It is easier to do it that way. One day, I'm in the color darkroom all by myself, alright? So this is right before I shut off the lights. I'm the only one in there because at one point, again, when it's pitch black, shit kind of gets to you sometimes. You think you see shit, you think you hear shit, you sometimes think you feel shit. Darkroom, if you had like a camera that could see in the dark, you would see me doing this, like, I don't know, throughout the whole day. You know, I'm working and I'm like, it's because I literally felt like someone was literally right here next to my face. And although I cannot see them, I cannot feel them, I can't hear them, I feel like there's somebody there. So I felt like somebody was just this close to my face, staring at me. It's kind of weird. It's kind of a weird feeling, especially when you're in the dark, you don't see anybody or hear anybody or whatever. But I sort of played it off as if it was nothing. So, one day I'm setting up, and the lights are still on, the color darkroom, and basically just getting set up for the day because it was 9 a.m. I was going to spend like a good portion of my day in there because I don't think I had any classes that day, so I decided to just fucking say fuck it, let's spend a day in the fucking darkroom. So that's what I was doing. As I was setting up, I had this thing in my hand called a grain finder. And if you don't know what a grain finder is, it is basically a miniature version of a telescope. A miniature version of a microscope. There we go. Basically, you know how through a microscope you look in there with both eyeballs? Okay? And you're like looking at shit microscopically? It's kind of what I was doing here. It's kind of like a microscope, and it's facing a mirror. Okay? Little mirror. And basically it helps you focus your enlarger or whatever picture you have in your enlarger. It helps you focus it. And I was focusing my enlarger while the lights were on. I know that seems counterintuitive, but hear me out. I wanted to know what the fuck I was doing and where I was putting shit. So, as I turn around, and out of force of habit, I always put the grain finder in the same spot. Regardless if I'm the only one in that dark room, I know where it's supposed to go, or at least that's where like the people were putting it, most of the classmates were putting it in the same spot. So it was like, here's an enlarger here, and then next to me is another enlarger, and then behind me are two more enlargers, okay? And they're also obviously next to each other. So that's where I would put it, because I didn't want to knock it down in the dark, so I would put it on the other edge, so I wouldn't do that. So, this room that I'm in is probably, it's not very big, okay? Let's just put it that way. Here's a door behind me, there's a door on the other end. The other door actually leads to the black and white dark room. There's a door behind me that leads to another place I'll get into a little bit later. And I go and I turn, and I have this grain finder in my hand, and I went to go put it behind me on the other counter so I don't knock it down, also because other people put it there anyway. And I turn around and I'm facing the door that is facing the black and white dark room. And all of a sudden, as I'm turning, I see like this shadow. It's very close to the floor. It doesn't look like it's very big either. It's like maybe a foot tall. But the weird part of this shadow was that it was about that. You can't really put that into perspective, can you? Probably about a foot tall. And not only was it moving across the room at a weird speed, but it was also changing shape as it was doing it. And it looked very weird to me. I just kind of stopped and I looked at it, and it went across the room, across the door, and then it went towards the wall, and it just sort of disappeared. And I thought, holy fuck, did I do that? Because my first reaction to shit like ghosts and shit, I want to make sure I didn't do that myself. In other words, I try to debunk it. So, I have the grain finder in my hand. I'm like, okay, maybe the mirror on the grain finder bounced off the light somehow and fucking created this weird ass shadow as I was moving across the room. So I'm like doing this with the grain finder, just being like, I hope to God this fucking works. And guess what? It didn't. As weirded out as I was about that whole unexplainable, like, 2 seconds of my life, I put the grain finder where it's supposed to go, and I continue on with my work for that day. Yes, I did still feel like there was somebody right fucking here next to me, and I was doing this for fucking 6 hours, but I still got my work done. So this other story is actually takes place at the same fucking spot. Still at the same dark room, still at the same enlarger. And this is probably a good month later or something, you know, I'm still doing shit. Semester's almost over. I'm kind of cracking down on what I need to do, get projects finished and shit. And it takes a real... I'm over there, I'm doing shit on my enlarger. I just get done printing a photo. Now, more explanations coming. At the enlarger that I was at, I was next to a door here, and a door way over there that faces the black and white dark room. So that door actually led to another dark room, another color dark room. And there's more enlargers in there, and there's also the color processor, which actually you put your already printed photo in, or your exposed photo in, and it takes a couple of minutes, and it runs through the machine, and it actually develops the photo for you. The way the enlargers work. The enlarger has a light. There's 2 switches. One of them's a button, one of them's an actual switch. Now, the switch, once you switch it on, it stays on until you switch it off. The button is there for when you set your timers, so that way you can expose your paper to whatever photo you want to a certain amount of time. Let's say 30 seconds or a minute and a half, whatever however long it takes. So that button does that, and once that 30 seconds or whatever is up, it automatically shuts off. So I press that button to expose my photo to light, to the picture. Done. Pressed it, is on for 30 seconds, shuts off. I take my photo out. I go through the fucking black cylindrical evil door, go through the other dark room, which is also pitch black, and then I feel my way around, and then I find the color processor, I slip it in, and I realize I didn't write down my color settings that were on my enlarger. Okay, I'm gonna fucking write down my numbers, because I didn't know what my numbers were. So I go in, I go through the dark room that I was in, go through the black cylindrical door again, open it, I looked at my enlarger, it's on. Somehow. I didn't turn it on. There was literally nobody else in the dark room other than myself. And I just said, nope. And I shut the door. I went out the other way. I fucking went outside. I took a breather. I was fucking a little bit freaked out about that. But, you know, when shit like that happens, you have 2 choices. You're either gonna run for your life because it's shit that happens in scary movies, or you're gonna keep working. And if you're anything like me, you're gonna keep working. Because I had shit that had to be done. And no ghost is gonna stop me from that. There's that. But I don't have any haunted places that I work, really, or haunted places that I live. Nothing's really haunted around here, honestly. That was really the only hauntingness stuff that I've ever experienced in my life, and it's kind of creepy and weird. But have a happy and safe, but more importantly, happy Halloween. And get plenty of ghost stories and stuff. Get plenty of candy. Send them to me because I love candy and cake and stuff. And I will see you next time.